Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we are talking about Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 6, Rogue. This is the first episode of the season that is not written by Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat, and is in fact written by the showrunner for the Disney Plus show Loki, Kate Herron, as well as Briony Redman. This was an episode that is kind of a return to form after the last couple of weeks of Doctor Who. It has more of a standard structure to the typical Doctor Who episode, and so there's a lot to talk about here, so let's get into it. This episode, the Doctor and Ruby find themselves in 1813 England, where they are attending a ball for the Duchess of Pemberton. Amid the fun of the party, the Doctor and Ruby uncover a plot from a alien species called the Chuldurs, who are a race of shape-shifting aliens that go around the Earth and find human victims to essentially cosplay as for their own amusement. This is also an episode where we get introduced to a new character called Rogue, who is a space bounty hunter played by Jonathan Groff, who you might recognize from shows like Glee and Mindhunter. This is a really interesting episode for the Doctor because it seems that we are getting a romance set up here with the 15th Doctor and Rogue, even though it is short-lived in this episode, with Rogue ultimately choosing to sacrifice himself so that he is able to save Ruby on the Doctor's behalf, and the parting words, though, that Rogue says to the Doctor suggest that this is not the last we are seeing from him. In fact, we know that the Doctor was left with a ring that Rogue gave him, and the episode kind of lingers on the ring as a last shot. And so I really think that we will be seeing him again, and in what capacity, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's an interesting choice. We know that the Doctor really hasn't had too many love interests proper in the show, even though we know that he's had different flings throughout his life. There haven't been many characters that have been really serious romantic interests for the Doctor, except for someone like Rose Tyler or even River Song. I know a lot of people are not exactly sure about that choice. I'm not exactly sure about it because I do like the distance that it seems the Doctor typically has with other human beings. Of course, I do think that the 10th Doctor and Rose are a bit of an anomaly in that sense. And then, of course, you can make the argument that the Doctor with River Song is also an anomaly, but I really liked the way that the Doctor and River Song's romance was written, where you could tell that they really loved each other, but it wasn't about the physical connection. It was more about their respect that they had for one another and the trust that they had for one another. And so, because I love how beautifully that story was written and how it ended, selfishly, I don't know that I really want the Doctor to have another love interest, but I am interested to see what they are able to do with the story. It does seem like it will be a situation where the Doctor and Rogue meet each other again at different points throughout the 15th Doctor's run, and that it won't be something where we have Jonathan Groff coming on as Rogue in a more permanent position. And I think as long as they keep to that arrangement, then that will make for a more interesting story, because I don't want the focus of Doctor Who to be on the Doctor and his romantic relationships. I will say that I was pretty intrigued with Rogue as a character upon the first introduction of him on the top of the staircase at the Duchess's ball. I loved that interaction between him and the Doctor, as Rogue is being very stone-faced and the Doctor is just trying to get him to loosen up, and is really succeeding based on the fact that the 15th Doctor has so much charisma that you can't help but love, you can't help but smile in his presence. And I really loved that tension, as especially when the Doctor is taken into custody by Rogue, because Rogue thinks that the Doctor is a Chuldur. I love the fact that the Doctor's still being very playful with Rogue, even though he's essentially leading him to his death. I kind of felt, though, that once we got to the Doctor's reveal of who he is to Rogue, that it just became a standard Jonathan Groff character. I felt like that facade that he was putting up fell away a bit too quickly, and I would have preferred more conflict between them. When the Doctor said, "Let's argue across the stars," that was more of the dynamic that I was looking for between the 15th Doctor and Rogue, especially when you consider the fact that Rogue is a bounty hunter, and that is a profession that the Doctor should be diametrically opposed with. That there could have been more fun things to play with there that the episode really didn't touch on after a certain point. That being said, I have seen some talk online where other people are thinking that in sacrificing himself to save Ruby, that Rogue was intentionally leading the Doctor into a trap. We know, as I said, that the Doctor was given a ring by Rogue, and the episode really lingers on it at the end there. And so it is likely that at some point the Doctor will find himself face to face with Rogue again, or in a trap set by Rogue. And I'm hoping that if that is the case, then we get something that is closer to what I was looking for this episode, because I think that would be a pretty interesting dynamic. And I feel like if you're going to give the Doctor a love interest, it has to be with a person that is diametrically opposed to him in some way, just to keep the dynamic interesting. I don't want it to just be a typical romance that you see on any other show, because I don't think that the Doctor has ever handled romantic relationships in that way. I feel like most of what we get from Ncuti in this episode is kind of that very flirty, kind of charismatic guy here, which is something that we've gotten the entire season, but as we're getting toward the end of the season, it is a little bit frustrating that we haven't seen him be more active in the events that are happening in the episode. I really hope that we get something big from him in this final 2 episodes of the season because I just really want to feel like he's the Doctor in terms of action. I think he's there in terms of the way that he acts, the way that he carries himself, the way that he is able to command a room, and even in his philosophy on life. But I don't know that I've seen it in the way that he acts, the way that he controls a situation. I feel like most of these situations have gotten away from him, and so I just want to see something where he's being a little bit more active. I will say that I think one of the great things that the 15th Doctor is doing here is the fact that he is essentially the therapy doctor. He is the one that exists because of the work that the 14th Doctor did in taking a break and really taking control of his thoughts and his feelings about the stuff that has happened over billions of years of his life. And now he's at a place where he can have something like this romantic relationship that is more explicit and is more active. He can have a better perspective on the traumas that he has gone through. I loved when he was talking to Rogue and Rogue asked him how he goes on in the face of all of these things. And he says, it's because you have to live for those who can't. And I thought that was a very profound thing and something that is a great understanding of who this Doctor is and why he does what he does. I feel like Ncuti has that on lock. I just wish the episodes were giving him more to do. They were giving him more of a way to take charge in these conflicts that are happening, because I feel like it's on too many of the other characters to do that, and not enough on the Doctor, which is not typical for Doctor Who. That being said, that could very well be a theme of the finale, that there could be something there that the Doctor is missing, that is going to be something that kind of teaches him as he goes along in his run. It is just something we're going to have to wait and see. That being said, I also think that what we're getting from Millie Gibson is really good. I think what we get from them together is really good, but it's so many small moments. There isn't something collectively, something bigger that really shows us what it is that their dynamic is all about. We know they're in lockstep with one another. We got that great scene where the Doctor and Ruby are trying to communicate to one another what is happening, and they're talking over each other, and it is really funny to see them in lockstep like that. But so much time for them is spent apart from one another in their own different plot lines, and even though I like the plot lines that are going on, I feel we don't have enough of a sense of who they are together to really buy into their dynamic. It's fun when they're on screen together, but in a show that really has these great character arcs between the Doctor and his companions, I wish the show was giving us a little bit more. That being said, I also loved the flashback that we got between the Doctor and Carla, where the Doctor promises Carla, who is of course Ruby's adoptive mother, that he will make sure that she gets home safely. And that was a really great scene. It was a really great way to show the responsibility that the Doctor feels for Ruby. I just wish that we were seeing more of their dynamic, so we weren't needing things like this flashback to fill in the gaps in their dynamic. Nevertheless, I still love what we get from Ruby here. I think that she is someone that is super personable. I loved the scenes with her and Emily Beckett. I loved her scenes at the beginning with the Duchess of Pemberton, and she really feels like a character that you can drop into any situation and she is going to be able to hold her own. I really loved getting to see the way that she fought off the Chuldur by turning the earrings that she was wearing onto battle mode. I thought it was brilliant the way that she essentially cosplayed as a Chuldur to make sure that she made it out of that situation alive, even though, of course, the Doctor ended up complicating things with the Triform. Ruby is a character that can definitely hold her own. I just wish that we were getting more characterization about her so that we could understand more about her. I feel like if we do that, then her character has the ability to go to even greater heights. I just don't think that she has essentially been served by the story very well in terms of these 8 episodes that we have. There haven't been quieter character moments that have really taught us who it is that Ruby is. And so that's been a little bit unfortunate. And I'm hoping going into the finale, we get a little more insight, or once we get into the Christmas special or season 2, that we get a little bit something here, because I think that's really one of the things that this season of Doctor Who is missing, one of the things that this era is missing, and it is not a deal breaker for the show by any means, but it is just something that I hope they're able to turn around. The last couple of things that I want to talk about get into theory territory. I am not very much a theory guy. I typically don't do theories because I usually get a lot of stuff wrong. That can be embarrassing. But I do think there are some interesting things to talk about here that are a little bit more backed up by what we've seen on the show so far. So I think it is okay to kind of delve into the waters a little bit and see what we come up with here. So a lot of what this season has been about has been storytelling. It's dealing with different mythological creatures, different mythological stories, such as Mad Jack or the Snot Monster. And so there is a lot here that is seemingly talking about the importance of stories. And I thought it was very interesting that the crux of the conflict for this episode was that the Chuldurs were essentially cosplaying television characters. And that had made me wonder if the reality in which the Doctor is operating in this season is our reality, or if it is one that is being constructed by the legions of the Toymaker. The reason that I say that is because one of the things about the setting of the episode is that it is taking place in 1813 England. And in this particular setting, we see very diverse casting. We see people of color that are dancing with members of the white aristocracy, which is something that is not typical for the time period that the Doctor and Ruby are visiting. As we see in the back half of the episode, the Doctor and Rogue end up dancing together in the middle of the ballroom as a way to stir up drama and draw the Chuldurs out, because in that time period, something like homosexuality was deemed very scandalous, very controversial. And I think it's interesting that the episode draws attention to that, but doesn't draw attention to the fact that there are members of the aristocracy that are non-white. This could be a function of RTD just wanting to do diverse casting. We've seen this before when he cast a non-white actor as Isaac Newton. It was something that he did intentionally. It was something that he did for the sake of having diverse casting, and it worked really well. I just don't know if that was something he meant to do here, or if it is something that is serving into a larger narrative that maybe this is an alternate history and that reality is sort of being messed with by the legions of the Toymaker. Another theory that has been going around for a while is that the actress Susan Twist, who has been popping up in the Shudigatwa era in practically every episode except for, I believe, the Giggle, is a mystery box for the season, that she is an important character that is going to play a role in the finale, and that seems to be confirmed. We have the 15th Doctor saying in the voiceover for the finale that this woman keeps popping up in his timeline, and it is something that has been acknowledged for a few episodes now, and so it is going to be very interesting to see who exactly this woman is. Some people have been speculating that it is the Doctor's granddaughter Susan, who was mentioned in the Devil's Cord. Either way, I am very excited to see how that storyline plays out. I kind of figured that RTD was lying this entire time about her just being some random actress that they cast for no particular reason, so I am interested to see what is in store for this two-part finale. I'm very excited to see Mel back. I am very excited to see Kate Stewart back. It is always a great time when we see Kate Stewart. So I think this is going to be a very exciting finale, and I am really excited to see how all of this ends up. That's going to be all for me for this video. Remember that if you liked the video, you can go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel, pressing that notification bell so that you get notified when I post a new video. Also, go ahead and leave a comment. Let's have a discussion about what you think the Susan Twist of the season is. Until then, see you later, guys.